What is up, Jabronis? JJ back here with Boynton. I feel so odd saying, I've called you Stevie for so long. I feel like Boynton, it just seems so odd. But I could see how people would prefer to call you. I have a few folks that do like to call me Appressina, so I could see that. I don't know, it just doesn't roll off my tongue the way I thought it would. Boynton.
Sometimes things take time. It's not. It should be natural, but since we got off on the wrong foot with Stevie for so long, I guess it takes time to change habits, I guess.
Yeah, I could see. I'll give it a few more weeks to marinate. I mean, we'll be talking a lot between now and March Madness, so I'll give it some time to marinate, Boynton, and we'll go from there. I think it'll flesh better out as we go. So, how's your week been overall? Last week's show was overall decent. I think we ended up in the positive. I know that we were very heavy on. What game were we super heavy? Butler? Yeah, Butler was the game we were super heavy on. But it didn't matter. We still ended the show positive. And had a good Saturday overall, the two of us. Looking forward to this week in general. But how's your week been so far?
Yeah, week has been good. Last Saturday, the biggest ones I was on were Kansas, who had the blowout win, which is nice, and Kentucky, who had the blowout win. So that was good. It's been an interesting week in DFS. We have a really interesting slate today without much value. So I think it's gonna be tough on everyone. So if you're building lineups and you don't feel that comfortable with it, you're not alone.
Yeah, I guess we could start since I know you did the DFS show, which I was tuned into last night. Maybe just start giving out one or two guys you really like for today's slate. I know a lot of folks that watch these may not play DFS, but some of them may. Who are two folks you're high on today based on price?
Yeah, so two spots I like. The Florida State UNC game I think is going to have a lot of scoring here. Florida State without Malik Osborne has kind of been circling the drain a bit. His on-off splits are pretty stark as far as their defense. But what it has done is it's forced Leonard Hamilton to kind of condense his rotation. Caleb Mills is playing a ton. His shot rate is way up lately, and his price just hasn't caught up to this new role on the team. So in a big pace-up spot where they're going to need Mills to play 32 plus minutes, I really like him here. And then one more, just because we're so starved for value, Oklahoma gets a real nice pace-up spot at Kansas. We've seen Elijah Harkless kind of regain his role over the last couple games, and he's played 35 plus in two straight. His rates are up. He's a guy that we've liked in the past just because his peripherals are so good. His rebound rate, his assist rate, and just on a slate where we're kind of starved for value, I think he's a really safe play here, kind of in the lower mid range for us.
Love it. Thanks for adding those guys. And then you mentioned it's a tight slate. I mean, I could see that for sure. So I guess value is going to be the one that wins it all today. And on that end,
Yep.
Joey Havana, SB Gills, what's going on, boys? So yeah, I guess we'll start with you, Steve, because I know we both like a play in the same game. So I know it didn't work out for us last week, but I think this week they're a little less correlated. So Baylor, Texas. I know you got a spot you really like here. So you want to break it down a bit?
Yeah. So top 15 matchup here to start the day. It's a noon Eastern tip. Texas moved to +6 overnight, which is where I grabbed it. They've been really successful, especially lately, in drawing teams into their slow tempo. They kept Kansas under 70 possessions on Monday, which is tough to do to keep Kansas down. Baylor's 3-point shooting, which has been kind of their calling card all season, has come back to earth a bit without LJ Cryer in there. He's still nursing that foot injury. He's a game time call today. I think he's going to be severely limited even if he goes here. And he's a huge impact player on the team. Didn't play that much last year just because they were so deep at guard, with the three guys who went to the NBA. We faded Baylor last Saturday with the Kansas, and that paid off, and I'm going to fade them again here. What's interesting, Baylor's 9th out of 10 in conference play and 2-point field goal percentage defense, which is where Texas wants to do the majority of their scoring. They're frustrating for DFS because they run such a deep rotation of bigs, but keeping them all fresh. and they're all very good players. And I think they have a great matchup inside today against this Baylor front court. I expect this game to be, like a close rock fight conference play. Both teams are in the top 5 in conference, and love getting more than 2 possessions here.
Yeah, and I like not a similar bet, but kind of going on the same guideline. So I actually like this under. I know that this has moved a bit. It's trickled up and down between 129.5 and 130.5. I guess if we talk on current number, let me pull up DraftKings here. Yeah, so under 130.5 minus 105. I guess based on how that's going, you might be able to wait to get 131. For this though, I guess I'll give under Baylor, Texas, under 130.5 minus 105 PK. So for me, it's kind of as you mentioned, like Texas has really forced teams to play at their pace, and Kansas just like shot the lights out of the gym. And it was actually impressive to see Texas hold their own in that spot, and even of course win. Yeah, I mean Kansas just shot absurd from the field, and they got a lot of free throw attempts in as well. The difference here is like Baylor's not going to draw a lot of contact, and then like you look at these two teams as a whole as well. It's not like Texas lives at the free throw line either. So I just think overall, the only way I think we get crushed here, at least based on this matchup, is both teams are superior on the offensive glass, and obviously when you have a total this low, and if you get enough easy putbacks, it does become a bit of an issue for the total. And of course, if this game is close enough late, you could get those 15 to 20 points in the last 3 minutes because of fouls and such. So yeah, I just think to your point as well, I think this plays a lot like a rock fight. I think the refs likely let these dudes play. Texas can be a bit handsy at times, but Baylor does not draw contact. They're much more of a jump shooting, 3-point shooting team. I think overall, Texas is going to do their best to severely limit possessions in this game. Texas does have an advantage in the ability for them to turn the ball over on the defensive end. Baylor forces a lot of turnovers as well, but Texas is a little better with the ball on their side. Overall, yeah, I just think this is going to be a game filled with a lot of tough shots. And if these guys come to play and obviously they hit their jumpers again like they did last game, sure, this will go over the short number. But I think this is a game that likely plays high 50s, low 60s, and hopefully it lands there and we don't have just an egregious amount of putbacks on the offensive glass or a crazy amount of fouls late. You can bet the first half under if you're a little scared in that regard, and worried about a late foul situation in the full game. But yeah, I just think the number's big. I think overall, Texas is really going to limit this team, and Baylor's going to have to shoot over this team. And as you said, they've kind of medianed out a bit. So we'll see how it goes. And between me and Stevie, you can make a correlated bet with Baylor under their team total. If you don't want to make both bets, you can bet Baylor under their team total because the way you win that, the way Stevie and I go 2-0 is Baylor going under their team total. So
right, yeah, definitely.
You can do that as well, but these are the isolated bets we've made. Steve, how about you talk on another game you like?
Yeah, so I like Florida plus 10 here going to Kentucky. I'm a big Kentucky fan moving forward and actually have a title future on them. But, I think we have a bit of an inflated line here. Florida's gotten their feet under them of late. Castleton was out for 2 or 3 weeks. Clearly their best player, but he's come back. They've won a couple games in a row. He's the exact piece that they kind of need to help slow down Oscar Tshiebwe and his country leading rebound percentage. Castleton's he's a really good rebounder, top 25 block rate in the country. And what's probably going to be key here, he draws a ton of fouls. 6.5 fouls drawn per 40 is top 30 nationally. And the only way to get Tshiebwe out of the game is he does tend to foul. So you combine that with what I think is a clear look-ahead spot here for Kentucky, who's on the road to face rival Tennessee on Tuesday, which is kind of a quick turnaround. So you get the look-ahead spot combined with, I think, a little larger number with Castleton kind of fresh coming back. Fading the Ken Pom #1 player of the year isn't really for the faint of heart. But I think 10 points here is just a bit too much for a Florida team that has kind of righted the ship after they took a couple of ugly losses without Castleton in there. One of the best big men in the country. So yeah, give me Florida plus 10 here.
Love it. Love it. And I'm actually, before I even give my pick here. So I know you mentioned this a bit yesterday on your show as well. Houston, now I think they're minus 10, or I guess Penn's your book. This is such a smash spot for Houston. So this is the type of team that, and I know Memphis is gaining steam again under Hardaway, and they've won a few games in a row. Most of them were at home, though. This team doesn't really have, I guess their marquee win would be Wichita, which they won by a lot on the road. But Houston is such another animal for this team. And one thing I know about Houston, yes, they do relatively play slow, but when they play a team that plays fast, like a Memphis, they are very content to run with a team like Memphis and just pile up extra possessions. And they're much more efficient on a per possession basis. And you want to talk about a game where Houston should just dominate the offensive glass. There should be countless putbacks for these bigs inside. Now, the only thing that concerns me, this is what I'm interested in your opinion on. When you lay this type of number, you often don't like to be in a situation where your opponent is taking a lot of free throws. And I know Memphis doesn't make a lot of free throws, but they certainly get to the line a lot. And Houston, if there's one thing you can put, there's two things you can pin on them every year. It's that they foul too often and they do not get to the free throw line. These are critical, obviously, in March. But for this game, does it scare you at all? I mean, it didn't scare me. I bet it. Does it scare you at all that this game could be a Houston-dominated game in field goal percentage, but Memphis just continues to hang around because they're living at the free throw line?
I love Houston here. I actually meant to hit it last night, and then by the time my show was over, it had bumped back to 10.5. So I do like it under 10. Just an awesome spot. Houston's going to be pissed off. I mean, they gave that SMU game away on Wednesday. They were up 15 in the second half, give up 85. This Houston team, especially off of losses the last 2 years, has come out and just crushed teams the following game. Memphis scares me a little bit just because, they've played better of late, but they're such a volatile team. And they just turn the ball over at will. 349th in turnover rate. Houston's top 25 in defensive turnover rate. The strength of Memphis being it's tough to score on them at the rim, which is, Houston does the majority of their scoring inside, but they're so efficient that I think that they can get past that. And like you said, offensive rebounding for Houston should be a plenty in this game. Memphis is awful on the defensive glass. Houston top 5 offensive rebounding team. I really like Houston overall as a team. Like I said on the show last night, they were kind of left for dead after they lost Tremont Mark and Sasser. But the guys who have stepped in are also really good. So, I think that's, can sometimes be lazy analysis. You lose a fifth-year senior. Sometimes the sophomore coming in is just better than them. So, yeah, I like Houston a lot overall as a team. I've been fading Memphis all year. Kind of lines up for me. If it drops down below 10 again, I'm going to hit it there at 9.5, I think.
Love it. Love it. Glad to have you on the same side. And the last bet I'll give out, and then we'll just do some final notes, Stevie, is so last night I hit Drake at +3. Now they're +1.5. I don't expect that to move backwards much, if at all. Bradley is getting some unforeseen love recently because now they've won, 6 of 7, I think. I know they just beat Loyola. But to me, you want to talk about finding value on a team. I'm not sitting here telling you Drake should be favored in this spot. I'm just telling you that I had this as a literal pick 'em. And the fact that you could still get them, I think +1.5 at decent VIG. To me, first of all, I think matchup wise, this is a great spot for Drake. I know that they lost against them at home a few games ago, but that game was, I don't know if you watched, I mean, anybody watched it. It was just an odd game overall from Drake. First of all, Drake is a really good two-way team. They play really good offense, really good defense. They do like to slow the game down. Bradley is a team that, if you remember, I don't know if you remember last year, the year before, they're a team that often plays really well at home. I think it explains the Loyola win. However, this is like your just typical marquee laydown spot for a team like Bradley. They get their huge win against Loyola, and now they host Drake, who's super hungry for a win. This is a very talented team. I just think at times they haven't been able to get out of their way. They've lost a lot of close games. This is a spot though for me where your kind of market corrects itself, and I like Drake to win outright here. But I think in your best interest, take the 1.5 that FanDuel's offering you at -106 in the event that they do lose the game by 1. But matchup wise, and again correlation wise, I always often like to speak on these, Stevie. You want to try to bet games like they happened almost like a week and a half or 2 weeks prior, at least at times, because that's your short sample market overreactions, right? You can't necessarily say, well, if these two teams played the first week of the season, because teams just are inherently different. But from week to week, teams are not inherently different. So I think overall, this game plays a few weeks back. I truly believe this is a pick'em. And the fact that you were able to get 3 last night, and even now 1.5. Really like Drake to win outright here. Any thoughts there, Stevie?
I don't follow them as much, but I do agree with the overall sentiment about week to week. The only thing that would change that for me is the kind of things I mentioned, like with the DFS plays, right, where you've got a major injury or a suspension or something, where sometimes with Florida, for example, they're only 2 losses. I think let me pull them up real quick. So since the 15th of January, they've lost 2 games, both on the road at Ole Miss and at Tennessee. Both were without Colin Castleton. I mean, they have not lost with him since basically just after New Year's. So stuff like that, I think adding that sort of context, I think matters a lot, especially in college basketball, where especially on the mid-major teams, you have a lot of times 1 or 2 guys have so much usage where if they were to miss a couple games, you can basically just throw those results out as far as handicapping them moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the only way it gets you into trouble is like me. I've been in trouble this year with Georgetown. My priors, I mean, look, you can manually modify your priors so that it adjusts your entire season ranks, but my priors on Georgetown literally lead me to betting them every week or every game. And that has not been fun. Like even today, again, there's more value on them. I dabbled a bit myself. I did not give it out to Run Pure members, primarily because I don't want them to continue losing money on the same team. So I do feel for you guys. But I did dabble on them again, and I'm sure it'll be a sweat late again or they'll be up 10 with 8 minutes left and they'll lose by 20. Though that backdoor cover was interesting, though, to get there to 8 last week when they were down 28 with 8 minutes left, and they still
right in the DePaul game.
Yeah, so I guess a little momentum for them.
They're just so inconsistent scoring the basketball inside the arc that they're just going to be so volatile, right? Because they rely basically on hitting their threes. They have 1.5 good free throw or 3-point shooters. And they just are a sieve inside the arc defensively. So teams just get so many easy buckets on them. Aminu Muhammad is talented. He's not a good defender, and he just hasn't shot the ball well in conference play. And they really have no defensive strength at the rim. They've got Ryan Mutombo, the 7-foot freshman, but he's super raw. If Muhammad stays, I think this is a team that could be better next year. But yeah, they've obviously struggled in conference play to stop teams from scoring.
Boy, what's your thoughts on our boy Kurt hitting on us on this show? Are you going to tolerate that, or are you going to embrace it?
Kurt is trying to get DFS plays out of me in the in the Discord while we're live on the show. So
You got to respect the hustle, though. Point.
Nice of Kurt to even know that we're live. Good of him to pay attention to Mangone's schedule, right?
All right. So I guess some final notes on today's slate in general, maybe betting wise. Is there any live spots you're targeting? Maybe in the afternoon or evening. And obviously you gave us your two favorite plays or two of your favorite plays today. But any live spots you might be looking at a better number at in game?
Yeah. So one game that has my interest is the Seton Hall Villanova game. Seton Hall is a team that I really like overall. They're currently getting 9.5. Nova's guards are both hurt. Gillespie and Justin Moore. They're both going to play, but they were clearly playing through what looked like pretty serious injuries in that St. John's game. I'm not sure if you saw any of it on Tuesday, I think it was. Gillespie with he turned his ankle really bad late in that UConn game and was basically just kind of out on the floor in the St. John's game, went 0 for 5, which, if you know anything about Colin Gillespie, that is a very odd box score. So, they have had a couple days off, but, a severe ankle sprain, I think he's kind of soldiering through it. So I want to see how the game starts, and, I'll have it on and see how they're looking. If Gillespie and Moore are both being passive again, Seton Hall can definitely keep this game within, that 10. So live Seton Hall kind of based on, how they start the game out and how those guards are looking health-wise.
Love it. And yeah, I did watch that game because I had the Johnnies in it, and it was kind of pain because I bet the game thinking those two studs for Nova would be out, and I did not know one of the St. John studs would be out. So it was like a three-way banger.
Yeah, Posh.
Yeah. So it was like a three-way. It was like a three-way middle finger for me at 4.5, and the fact that the game landed 6 was even more pain, because I'd argue if one of those two didn't play, or if the St. Johnny's kid played, they likely hang around enough in the number, but is what it is.
Oh yeah. I mean, if Posh plays there and Gillespie is hampered, I mean, he's the point man of their press defense, so I think St. John's definitely covers that number if Posh plays. But yeah, that's a frustrating one. One good game later. I don't have a bet on it, but just to kind of shut out a later game of the day, Ohio State at Michigan is interesting. Michigan coming off the massive win against Purdue the other night, and Ohio State kind of a bounce back after they dropped that awful Rutgers game on Wednesday. So just kind of an interesting intersection of spots in what is a really big Big Ten game. I think that is it's like a 7 p.m. Eastern game. So prime time, big time game.
Awesome. And it's that time of the show before we wrap up where we have Gavin pop in as a ghost with, because Gavin, you're always welcome. Always welcome. Gavin pops in with two of his plays today. What do you think of Kessler from Auburn in the spot? Obviously, it's funny, Gavin going back to the big dudes. What's your thoughts there? And an ECU first half look, which is even more interesting. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, so I can't speak to the ECU first half. I can put his thoughts in the Discord for our members after this. But Walker Kessler's in a great spot here. He's a guy that we were super high on coming into the year. He's been what I think is the clear linchpin for Auburn, being 22-2, coming off a 19-16 game. A&M does a lot of their scoring right around the rim, so I think Kessler has big time block upside here too. But yeah, I mean, if Kessler doesn't foul, I think he walks to a double-double here. Clear bounce back spot for Auburn at home, coming off the Arkansas loss on Tuesday. They probably put up, near 80 plus here. So yeah, I mean, I can't ever argue against a Walker Kessler over, because, been touting him all year. So And yeah, as Gavin says in the chat, our hero last Saturday, Jesse Edwards, broke his wrist. So, we got the last good game out of him for the season with that rebound over.
That's unfortunate because that kid just looks like a stud. I mean, he's like super lanky.
Yeah.
And you figure if he just developed like more of a jump shot, that dude's got some severe length especially for his size. He's big as it is. He just you watch him on the court for Syracuse. He looks so different than your typical dudes on Syracuse. But it's a shame all around. All right. So other than that, Stevie, I guess we're good. As always, folks, be sure to gamble responsibly. I'll be back tomorrow with my father talking a little more college basketball, talking a little NFL. So stay tuned for that. And as always, folks, stay safe. And yes, run pure. We'll catch you guys next week.